So I'm a Bostonian, like you may or may not know. Grew up in Mattapan, which is were you guys at Lowell?
They're a mix. So we've got one campus on Lowell, one in Bedford, and they're from all the areas around there, like Lowell, Bedford, Billerica, the whole general
Okay,
area.
okay, cool. So I grew up in Mattapan. Um, Went to school in Newton, Massachusetts, and then went out and I got bussed out there from kindergarten through 12, and then I went to College of the Holy Cross in Worcester. And then from Worcester, after that, that's when I actually started working in production, and I met Jen doing independent movies. I was a grip electric and a PA, and that's really all I ever did because I think I AC'd one time. And then from there, I applied to the American Film Institute in 2002. And then upon getting into the AFI, I went, got my master's. And after that, I became a gaffer. And I had to transition out of being a gaffer, and Spike Lee gave me an opportunity to become a camera operator on a documentary called When the Levees Broke. And then from there, my career kind of picked up, and I started shooting more and more, and shot movies now for Sony, Marvel, all different types of folks as first unit DP, camera operator, and now it's mainly just DPing these days. But that's the short and skinny of it. So I don't know. That's a brief overview.
How important do you think it was to know all of those individual stages that you went through on your way up? In other words, learning how to do the lighting, doing the gaffing, doing the red screenwriting, all those individual stages. Do you think they're necessary to have all those stages, experience in all of them?
For me in my journey, I definitely feel that it's very, very important that I started from very basic level of fetching coffee and locking up a street corner at 3 o'clock in the morning with no one walking near it. So for me, I think it was very important because I have a better understanding of production. I mean, certainly everybody's path is different, but for the path that, for where I am, I definitely respect it to the fact that I think it's very important because when I deal with people on set, it's like, it's like I know your job because I've done your job. And it's like so I understand what it means to them to be a little bit frustrated, have a vision of where they want to go. It's like, well, do your best now where you are, and just know what the end game is of whatever you want to do. It's like, but so having that rapport and relationship when I need things done on set, and we can already have this conversation. We got a platform to you know, build from. I can get things done faster. I can get the extra favor from somebody who's a little bit frustrated. They know that I understand their job because I've done the job. So it's one of those things that I definitely think is quite important. I mean, I think it's good for everybody to do it. If you really want to be in production, I think you should start as a PA. To get the jump up and already be gaffing out of nowhere. You've never been an electric, never been a PA. It's like you miss some levels of understanding. It's all this business is really about 2/3 of it is really about relationships. So trust me when I tell you, it's really about relationships more so than anything. Connections, but also just how you deal with human beings. Like that's what it really comes down to. That's why in the indie circuit when there was a big one in New England, somebody like Jen would hire me. Like she was producing and we worked together. We were doing different facets, and you just never know where that relationship can go, or who's going to end up becoming a producer. They may have been a PA 2 years ago, but they didn't tell you that they're in a whole line of money to start making movies, or whoever their uncle is like. And just because you treat them a certain way, all of a sudden you get an opportunity to work, to shoot, to step up. You know, late people. I teach too, so I'm always all over. I'm always all over everybody.
Next question. Delane, and then go ahead to Jason.
So as director of photography on Straight Outta Compton, do you contribute your own vision to that film at all, or did you mostly just follow the vision that the director and producer had for the film? Do you get to add your own like thoughts and
So, so my role on Straight Outta Compton was really as a second unit DP. I really did the action unit stuff. So I get to add a little bit of things. My mentor is Maddie Libatique, and Maddie is like, he's world renowned. He's awesome guy, and but he gives me freedom. Like Maddie's like, do what looks best. Just this is what the story beat is. Go over it with F. Gary, because Gary would come and do my unit, and then Gary would go over and do the first unit. So and I would give suggestions on the day. I mean, I read the script a couple of times, just sat in like one or two meetings. But as a second unit DP, you're really kind of like the cleanup guy. Like whatever the scene they couldn't finish, there's like I come in and then I go with Gary or one other director, and then we block it out. Like like they shot the bus one way. Like if you've seen the movie, the scene where the gangster gets on the bus, they shot Ice Cube's way with the first unit, and then I shot the other way when the guy physically gets on the bus. Everything from outside the car. So it's like I'll frame up, say, "Hey, I think this is interesting," or "This is interesting." They're like, "Okay, that's good, that works." And then like when the guy gets on the bus and he starts talking to Cube, you notice like they're never really in the same shot. This is because they had to shoot them on two separate days. So me being Mr. Cleanup, I'm shooting the stuff looking at the gangster, looking over the chairs at him, and then also when he jumped out of the car and stopped the bus and all that. And it's like, so I get to put some suggestions in there on Straight Outta Compton. I mean, but sometimes it's just like, these are specific orders of what we need, and they'll just write it. And then on a movie like that I just came out with called Perfect Match, romantic comedy, it's like I'm the first unit DP, so then from the very beginning, it's all my ideas, like for the most part of framing and all that stuff. So it's a different role. It's just a matter how much, first unit DP, you have this much input, the director will give this much on framing, just depending on the director. Now, second unit, it's like about a third, but I still get to, you know, give my input and creativity. And, there's some really interesting stuff in Straight Outta Compton that I got to do when Dre had the earphones on and he's DJing, like all that stuff with the flares and all that. It's like, those were my ideas that my mentor started doing on some of the concert stuff. And he was like, well, now you can do it your way if you want. So I put these weird filters you can only get from Germany. Like those filters that you guys see in that movie are literally from Germany. There's only like one set. And so then depending on how you backlight it, the flares will all change. So, I just put my own spin on it and different colors on it, and came up with something interesting to give you the vibe that Dre's mind is like coming up with these ideas about scratching and music and all this stuff. And so when he's first learning how to DJ, you'll see like all this weird flaring stuff for him, and Ice Cube was sitting in the room, and so that type of stuff. I gave some input, but not as much as when I'm first unit.
that's really cool. That's interesting.
So what was your sort of inspiration of getting into this industry? Was there like an aha moment at one point in your life, or was there a certain film that you watched that sort of like, hey, that's cool, I want to do the same thing that happened in this film, or whatnot?
When I was a PA, my sister was casting music videos in New York in the 90s, like when music videos was huge, like in the 90s, like the Biggie videos and all this stuff. And she brought me down there. I was still at Holy Cross, and I was at prep school. I was at Northfield Mount Herman, which is out in Western Mass. And I went in PA picking up trash on who was it? It was Brandy. Brandy had one of her early music videos. And dude, I was really picking up trash, fetching coffee. And I saw what this guy, this crazy British cameraman, like the way he was dealing with the crew and everybody. And I was like, man, I like what that guy's doing. Like, it's like a team effort. And he was like, I played quarterback all the way through college. And I was like, I like what he's doing. I want to do what he's doing. And I heard, you get paid pretty well to do that, collaboration. I always love taking pictures. And I was like, no, I'm gonna do what he's doing. And it's kind of weird because Holy Cross is a very corporate school. Like Holy Cross is very much, my friends are like lawyers, stockbrokers. Like it's some filmmakers that come out of Holy Cross, but it's like far, far, far few. But that was really it. It was about like 18, 19 years old. And I was like, you know what? I want to do what he's doing. And I started learning more about film. We had some film classes there, like film studies, no film production. And I was even considering transferring out to go to Emerson. And I was like, you know what? I'll just finish out at Holy Cross because I had an academic scholarship after I stopped football. But I was really like, you know what? I'm going to do what he's doing. And we had to rerun theater for Worcester in the basement at Holy Cross in the cafeteria. It's like the upstairs, all was the cafeteria. Below was the dollar rerun movie theater. And they ran movies on Wednesday afternoons and Friday nights of like a movie that's already been in, been out in the theaters. And I'd be the only one in there on a Wednesday afternoon because all my friends were studying. And I would watch every printed movie that came through there because it was all prints and it was like beautiful stuff like Gattaca, LA Confidential, all these different movies. And I was just sitting there and I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to fucking shoot movies. Like, I love this. So, it's like, I'm really going to do this. And I was sitting in this big movie theater in the basement and just be like, yo, somehow, some way I'm going to freaking do this. And that's where it really comes down to every day. It's like, how am I going to, years ago I had like dreams of like traveling the world and doing this thing. And it's like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. Like, you know what I mean? I just love it. Like, how am I going to shoot movies around the globe? You got to remember, my parents, like, my dad worked for the T. Like, everybody there has probably written the MBTA. Like, that's where my dad worked for 36 years. My parents from the South, man. Like, they have no idea about films and all that stuff. Like, they go see my movies now, but to help me out in this game, like, nah. My mom actually worked up in Billerica at a place called Bull Worldwide Information Systems. She was like an accountant or something. So my folks, they just kind of supported me, but it was one of those things that I had to really believe in this dream. My sister got out of the business. She was like casting only for about 4 or 5 years. And it was like just straight music videos. And then after that, it was on me. Onus in this dream is really on me to just, keep going.
So we were looking at your IMDb page, and we saw that they have a lot of short films and feature films, and I was wondering which do you enjoy working on more? Do you enjoy the short films, or do you enjoy working on the much larger films?
As my career has definitely expanded and grown, like there's nothing like a feature film. There's some short films that are interesting to do once in a while, but seriously, it's all about the feature film. Short films are getting a little bit with the internet. You're getting, you can get some notoriety with it. It'll play some places and whatnot, but there's nothing like a feature film. I love it. I love it to death. It's just one of those things, man. Like to start talking conceptually with directors and being passionate about it. And as the career's getting, bigger and bigger, it's just one of those things that it's great collaboration to, work with better actors. Like is the joy of working with better actors after a time, you got to realize is that it makes your job that much more enjoyable. Because sometimes when you do low budget stuff and indie stuff, like, unless there's really good acting, it can be a little bit painful. So a short film, unless it's like it has Brad Pitt in it or something, it's like they're cool to do to start the career to show what you can do, but as an enjoyable process, it's like stuff just doesn't click as easily. Versus you get on the big movie, you see why certain actors get paid a certain way, and you just love it. So feature films is what I love to do. Another question?
Out of all that you've done, what would you say is your favorite genre to film?
I would say biopics are my favorite. So between something like Straight Outta Compton, which I was second unit, but then there's some movie called Kalushi that I did that's just coming out in South Africa, and I loved it. Both of them are biopics. They're both politically driven. They're awesome. Both of them are passion pieces. We'll see what happens with Kalushi. We just entered a film festival, won 2 awards. They just finished mixing the movie last month, so it's like we're just getting out there. So we'll see what happens with the major film festivals, but it's a political drama about somebody who was wrongfully killed at 21 years old and was hung for a crime he didn't commit. But I love a good political drama. Anything that can kind of get a little bit edgy with, tell a story, especially if it's based in reality. I think it's fun. I think it's something that you can really try to find the other layers. You meet people involved. All that stuff just fuels you for, you know, each day being on set. It gives you ideas of where to put the camera because you're hearing the actual stories. How can we do something a little bit more interesting? I have a TV1 movie coming out. TV1's a network, small network on cable, and we did a biopic of a woman named Mickey Howard, who used to hang out with Shaka Khan, and them on a drug binges for like a year or two, and the people involved with the two of them were on set, and all these interesting facts people didn't know about Mickey Howard, who was this R&B star in the '80s and late '70s and early '80s, and I just love that stuff. It's just so much fun.
What's been the most difficult shot that you've done?
Most difficult shot, man. That's a hard question. I really can't. It's like, you know what? When I first started doing short films, I did one in Milton, Massachusetts. And we did this whole Steadicam shot. We were up on a crane about 25 feet. And then we come down on the crane and we land. Steadicam person gets off, goes inside a store. We circle inside the store and we land on somebody who pulls out a gun. And it was like, that was pretty difficult because I had to light the exterior as well as the interior and balance the two. And that beat me up pretty badly. That, and then trying to think, and we've shot that on film, so it's a bit different nowadays. But that was a beautiful shot. And then trying to think if it was man, it's just I don't know. Oh, it was a difficult shot on Straight Outta Compton. That car chase. And that's the reason why. We they we took all the lighting trucks in LA. It was like 3 of them that were left for the day, but we had to shoot that same. If you see the white Ferrari flying through the Dre's being chased by the cops, but they didn't have enough operators for the trucks. So my gaffer, Justin, had to figure out how to work this truck. This truck raises up about 3 stories, and lights the street. It literally looks like my hand, and it has all these lights on it, about 24 of them. But since he was trying to figure out just how to, operate the truck, it started overheating because there's cables that come down the arm of the truck. So like it raises up, and we had to like try to figure out how to keep these lights on, even though he didn't know how to operate it. And we had this major shot. I mean, it's like it's 4 or 5 blocks if you watch the movie of a car chase, and the thing is going off, it's making all these siren noises, and then but we figured out that if we only turn on a few of the lights, and then the other lights turned, because it kept wanting to turn itself off, it became this weird thing of like, oh my god, like, are we going to get this shot because he doesn't necessarily know how to operate this thing? And we figured it out enough to get the shot, and it wasn't that hard. But I mean, we were on a pursuit truck, so a pursuit truck is a Mercedes-Benz truck with a camera on it, which swings around. So like you have a car, a Mercedes truck, and then the camera swings side to side as you're going through traffic. So we had that going along with this truck that wanted to turn itself off. And that was pretty difficult, but we still got the shot and made the movie. So that's like the attitude of like, nothing's going to stop us at this point. Like, we have to get this shot. We got opportunity to do like the movie everybody in town went to work on. I was like, there's no fucking way we're going to lose the shot. I mean, we made it. We made it happen. And then by the time we finished, then somebody came around to the truck and was like, oh, you just need to turn these other switches on to cool off the cables in the arm so then it didn't overheat. And we're like, thanks. Well, shot's done now. We need it down at the other block to go do something else. Like, it was crazy. But those two, I would say, are probably my 2 most difficult shots.
What advice would you give to us for getting into the industry?
Ooh. I got two bits of advice. I mean, first, you got to just believe in it bigger than anybody else. I always tell everybody that. There's no way that you can want people to believe in it bigger than you, to like really push you along. Like, you have to wake up and really want to do this. If you really don't want to do this, this is probably the wrong business for you. Another word of advice from two cinematographers who were like Oscar nominated. I mean, I had a dream job last week where I worked with on a Capital One commercial with Spike Lee, Sam Jackson. I was B camera. And, you know, when Spike calls me, I'm like, yeah, whatever, man, I'll do whatever for you. Help me out for like my whole career. And this guy named Robert Richardson was the ACAM DP. I never met Bob Richardson. If you ever look up Robert Richardson, he's only done like, I don't know, like 12 Oscar nominated movies. He's won 3. He's from Hyannis, Massachusetts, from the Cape. And, and Bob is like, has this word of advice he tells people that, be able to cover your overhead for the month in 1 week. So then you could take the jobs that you really want. So then like you can really be picky and choosy about what you want because your overhead's so low. Now, this, you know, I used to be that way in my life when I was single, didn't have a child, you know, and now, I mean, I do pretty good. I probably say I'm probably just about there. It's taking a while to get back to there. And then Maddie's word of advice that he tells people is, if you're single, don't get married until like you're well established. He's like, don't have any kids, don't get married. So you could take the small jobs. So you could take, you know, the travel jobs and be wherever you want. He's like, just don't get married. It's like, until you're really well established, you can make demands. Otherwise, you know, you're going to definitely be held up. So those are 3 bits of advice that I would give.
I just want to ask what it's like to work with Spike Lee because he's one of my favorites. So, can you talk a little bit about working with him?
Jen, I can't see you. You're like hidden over on the side over here.
I do his stuff every semester, and I love him. And every time he put pictures of him on Facebook, I just want to like, I don't know, like, I'm fangirling a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, but what's it like working with him?
Spike is an interesting person, to say the least. Let me see. I mean, he's very, very smart. Spike is always prepared. Spike shows up early. Spike is usually one of the first people on set, which is crazy. Like, if we have a 7:00 call time, Spike is there by like 6:15. He has no excuse for anybody. Like, no one has an excuse to show up late at all. And like, he's amazing. Like, he, you know, and me and him fight. Spike has yelled at me on every single job we've ever done because I start talking about Boston sports, and he's like hardcore New Yorker. So literally, he's yelled at me for 10 years. Like, he is, I mean, straight up like yelled in front of everybody because he gets so mad that I wear a Boston Red Sox hat on his set, which he thinks is like, you know, blaspheme around him, no matter where we are in the country. And he keeps bringing me around. So he's like, you know, so that's our relationship. You know, who knows? Maybe he won't hire me again, but Spike is been awesome. If you really work at what you want to do. I know people who have done wardrobe, first AD, grip, to gaffers, other cinematographers who have all gotten careers beyond Spike because he gave them a start. It's like one of the biggest union key grips who's black in New York named Lamont Crawford. And he started off as like a regular grip on PA and then a grip on Spike Lee stuff starting in the 90s. Now Lamont is like the New York key grip for Janusz Kaminski and everybody else. Like, he's done Munich, he's done Iron Man, he's in all these humongous movies. He did Noah. But like, because Spike started him out and just believed him, he just kept bringing him along. Same thing with the AD I'm about to go work with right now named Van Hayden. Like, Spike, he started off with Spike as an intern. And now Van has done, I don't know how many big, humongous movies. Like, you know, Van, you know, and these are just people behind the camera, let alone in front of the camera. You have like Holly Berry, you got Wesley Snipes, you got all these other, you know, all those folks everybody knows. But there's a whole crew, like a room full of, you know, more than anyone sitting there in that classroom of like careers that Spike Lee has given to people behind the camera, which is awesome, you know. and he keeps hiring them. He's hired people and given more opportunities. Like for his 30+ years that he's been filmmaking, and he's a film head. Like talk about any type of movie. And that's why he's a tenured professor at NYU after all this time. But he takes chances. I love the fact he takes chances. They don't all work, but at least he takes chances. At least he's not telling the same story over and over and over. And I think he's probably one of the best American documentary filmmakers besides Ken Burns. Like, if you ever watch any of Spike Lee's documentaries, they're unbelievable. Probably he and Ken Burns are the best two documentary filmmakers in the U.S. and the world, possibly. And Spike jumps genres. I mean, he does commercials, docs, and features. Like, that's pretty cool. I mean, Marty doesn't even do that.
Jumping from that, and so a huge population of our students here are students of color, and we all just went through the whole Oscars So White, and we talk a lot in my classes about just the fact that there's a complete underrepresentation of people of color in Hollywood. Do you have specific advice or anything that you found to be a particular challenge that you can kind of, offer some sage wisdom or ideas specifically for my students of color?
It's going to be tough. You have to be that much better to be recognized. I mean, to think my mentor is a Filipino man. Matty Lebetic is like 5'6", maybe 5'7", and he's he obviously looks different than everybody else. Matty hires the only female key grip, I think, in town. And she's badass. If you ever IMDb this woman named Tana Dubé, and Tana is off the chain, like, and he hires her. He's been his friend in Key Grip since before he went to even AFI. And it's just one of these things, you just have to be that much better to stand out. Like, you got to rely on what your background is and what your adversities and everything else are in order to do something different and creative. And this guy has helped me out. Just some kid from Mattapan, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just some kid from the hood who had a dream to figure this thing out and work on the film business. At one point, I was the only Black person in Local 481, the Grip Electric Union in Massachusetts. And then somebody else came in. So right now, I think there may be a couple now, but when I was there in the late 90s, I think I was the only one. I was like 19 years old, 20 years old. And that's when it was all Whitey Bulger and mobbed up with the Teamsters and everybody. So, and then just got to make the best of all the opportunities that come. It's like you really have to, like, if somebody gives you opportunity, then you have to make the best of it. Do you remember Brian Heller, Christine? Not Christine, Jen. Brian Heller is like my mentor. He went to Holy Cross, but he's my mentor for like 20-something years. Like, I still talk to Brian. Like, Brian gave me opportunities. He owns the Camera House Rural Camera, Boston. What's it called? Rural Boston Camera now. Yeah, and he gave me an opportunity to, like, hang around him, and it's like it's paid dividends, and he and I still talk. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't waste his time when given the opportunity, and like, I have to open doors for others that have given me opportunities. So that's what it really comes down to. But it's it's interesting. Right now possibly one of 2 Black males that shoot studio movies as a first unit DP. As a second unit DP, there's maybe a couple others, but right now as a first unit DP, I'm one of 2 that shot last year. I'm 38. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the other one's another 38-year-old named Bradford Young, who's freaking killing it right now. Who's doing really big movies. He's doing great. He's a friend of mine. Other than that, is other Black men that shoot television, like sitcoms, and one that does episodic. And I guess I'm doing episodic now. I'm doing like a single camera TV show, my first one, that starts today. So I'm going to pre-production today. So I'm like one of few. It's definitely a hard challenge. I mean, the business itself is hard for everybody, but to, like, be the only one on set sometimes, like, you're like, okay, I gotta push. I mean, but I remember I was prepared for it. Going to a school like Holy Cross, Jesus, it's not too many brown people that go to Holy Cross. So I don't care. Brown from what part of the world, doesn't matter. It's like, it's not too many of us. It's, if you're from New England, trust me, you know about the school. What other questions?
Are you union?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Can't work on. Say it again? Yeah, yeah. No, I was in the union at 19 years old. When I was a group electric, I was at Holy Cross. I got in the union because there was a lot of independent films that were there that ended up turning, and I got on one that turned, and so I've been IATSE since I was about 19, 20 years old. Then I took a couple of years off, and then I'm back in it. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. Did I expect to get this far? I can't hear the last part of the question.
I want to know, going from Massachusetts to Hollywood, did you expect to make it as far as you did?
Hell yeah. I know. Oh man, there's no other way. I had to believe it was going to be this far. I had to. Even now, feel like it's going to get even better. And it's like, and I've worked on the $200 million movie, but I wasn't the lead cameraman. So like, those days will come. But I have to, man. There's no other way I would maintain through some of the hardest times. I mean, look, when I got out of AFI, it was like 2004, 2005, and I was a gaffer for a couple of years, and then I started operating. And then in 2000, beginning of 2008, I got a studio movie as a first unit DP. Okay, for Sony. I shot this small Sony movie. I was like 28 years old or something. Yeah, I think that's right. I can't. I remember I was just 30. I was just 30. So imagine this. All of a sudden, I do that Sony movie. It had like a limited release, but then the writer strike happened. And when the writer strike happened, a lot of work just stopped. Your work just stopped out here. And all of a sudden I was like, yo, I'm doing studio movies as a first unit DP. And then all of a sudden it just stopped, my first one. And then the economy crashed. It was like the perfect storm. And I was like, oh my God. And in the midst of that, I met my wife. And then we got this house. And then I was able to maintain a little bit, but it was just like, Jesus, and I was shooting stuff, but it wasn't like first unit studio things. And it's just one of those things that like, I didn't realize it would be that lean at times. And even though it was like a hard time, it was like I still had to believe that this thing is going to work out somehow, some. And of course, now it's picked back up. But it was like having a wife in the mix of it and trying to figure out how to pay these bills and just to be shooting. And then I got into teaching a little bit, but it was like, oh my God, I went from thinking that I'm doing studio movies at 29, 30 as a first unit DP. I was like, man, it's gonna get. What could happen? I was like, I can't lose. And all of a sudden, like unforeseen circumstances due to the whole Hollywood industry and then the economy at large, boom, like it gets, the size movies I was doing, the older guys were doing $3 to $5 million. You had that big ASC guys who all of a sudden started shooting $3 to $5 million movies when that wasn't even their bracket before. And we were competing against them for that size movie. And I just did that for a studio. I was like, what the heck? I mean, I've done fine. I've done great. Traveled the world 3 times over doing this. Shot movies other places. Like I love it. Like it's worked out. But you have to believe it's going to work out to be this great. Somehow, some way, you don't know how the path is going to take you. You may have to go down a couple of times before you go up. But yeah, man. I mean, to see my mentor Maddie and a couple other guys that helped me out over the years, like they're like, you just have to you have to respect your path. Just believe that it's happening no matter what. I don't know how it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen though. Now I got a child involved in this whole equation. I best to believe it's gonna get better. Because living in Los Angeles is not cheap. It's getting more and more expensive. Trust me, I would love to be able to raise my child in Massachusetts, but my California wife, I don't know. Everything taken care of. Another question?
So how surreal was it to work on Straight Outta Compton? Like the idea of an NWA biopic just seems like out of this world, and working with a talented director like Gary, who's now like doing a blockbuster film, Fast and Furious. Like how surreal was it working with all the talent around Straight Outta Compton?
It was surreal because all the guys were there except for Easy. Like seriously, like they were there every day. Dre was there all the time. Ice Cube was there. Ren, Yella, they were there like on a daily. So they were like giving notes on stuff, and they trusted Gary tremendously because Gary used to do their music videos back in the day when he was like a young director. So he used to do Ice Cube videos. So he's known Ice Cube for like almost 40 years. And they gave, Gary so much of a comfort zone. But yeah, I mean that it just gave him such a comfort zone having his back. It was surreal for everybody, man. It was great. I mean, Ice Cube used to do concerts in between setups. Like him and Dub C would come out and do concerts in front of everybody. And like, it was like surreal. So you're sitting there like, this is crazy. I'm getting paid to be here and like do this story. And like, I knew it would be good. I didn't realize the movie was going to be that good though. Until my wife and I went to the screening of it, we were like, that movie's really damn good. And then it just exploded. I was like, I just had no idea. I got to be honest, man. I knew Iron Man would be fun because it was a franchise movie, but that Straight Outta Compton, something else. That was definitely something else. What other questions?
Get to their next class soon, so I'm gonna go with one more. Does anybody have a last question you want to ask?
Last one.
Go ahead.
I went to an art school for a semester, and their kind of whole philosophy was like, you'll never be a good filmmaker unless you take these 500 art classes. Did you ever like do like drawing and digital art and stuff like that? Do you think that contributes to your work?
That stuff definitely contributes. I don't think that's the only path. I mean, in all honesty, I think that world experiences are probably the most poignant thing to have as a filmmaker because you draw from those experiences and that will decide on your framing a lot of times. Like that will really, the heartbreaks, the how did I get into this situation in my life? Precarious situation that you're like, oh my God, like what just happened? I mean, those experiences from different things I think will add to a better filmmaker than any art class that you can ever take, to be honest about how you're feeling in the moment or what you really think those characters on the page are going through. And those type of world, it's like I almost feel like before, if you decide to go to grad school like at AFI or something, you should travel around and live a little bit and then come back to it. I mean, film is not going anywhere. We're always going to be making movies. It's like the newest art form. I love fine art. I studied that stuff at Holy Cross because I didn't have much of didn't have too many choices. But I mean, I love that stuff. And I say study those masters, but your world experiences are going to be more poignant to you to making decisions that are creative on a film set and telling a story than anything else.
I've got another one rolling in right now in about 5 minutes. Thank you
Okay.
so much. Not that you can see me. There we go.
Hey, no problem, Jen.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. Take care.
All right, I'll talk to you soon, Tommy.
Have a good day.
You too. Take care.